Welcome back to Daily Champs here, hosted on Champions Round YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. You're with your host, Justin Henry, for the day. Today, we'll be talking about NBA Finals starting up today, baby. We got the NBA Finals, Denver Nuggets, Miami Heat. Should be a great series. A lot going on with this series between a team that is obviously very talented on paper, and then another team that it has that dog in them. So we're talking about the NBA Finals. Also get to the Daily Dozen tonight on the Champions Round app. If you have not downloaded the Champions Round app, make sure you download it, play Daily Dozen and Spicy Slips. If you play Spicy Slips, you have a chance to win a signed Damian Lillard jersey this week if you post your slip on Twitter. So make sure you do that. And then we got to get into a little bit of NFL, some fantasy football, season-long predictions. I'll be talking about totals for a few different players here, but we got to get to the NBA Finals, obviously, to get started. It's going to be a crazy matchup. I think everybody's anticipating this series to be a very quick series between the Nuggets and the Heat. I think this series is going to be exciting, man. This was the finals that nobody wanted. Everybody wanted Lakers, Celtics, myself included. I ain't going to lie. But here we are with Nuggets and Heat, and to come out the gate, the Denver Nuggets are 8.5-point favorites right now. 8.5-point favorites for game one. Obviously, they've had 9 days rest. We know all about the altitude there in Denver and how much of a factor that can be for incoming players. The Heat have had a chance to travel in there. They've been there for a day or two now, and the series has started. We found out in between those four lines, it doesn't matter what's going on with the Miami Heat. They always give themselves a chance in these matchups. Now, when I think about this specific game, game one, this is a very important game for the Denver Nuggets, right? They have to be able to get this win. They've been one of the best teams at home all season long, 34-4 when Jokic has played, 34-4 at home when Jokic has played. So this is an opportunity for the Denver Nuggets to come in, make sure they keep the momentum, establish a base against this Heat team that if you give them any ounce of hope, this is a team that'll creep up on you. We've seen it. Right? Historic performance from this Miami Heat team, coming from the 8th seed, coming from the play-in tournament to beat the number 1 seed. They beat the number 2 seed. And, they almost gave up a 3-0 lead, but they didn't. This is a team that has persevered and fought through a lot of adversity. Very well-coached team. And that's going to be the storyline, is who has the edge in these series, right? When you look back at some of the matchups from these two teams, they played out differently, right? We've seen the Nuggets win. We've seen the Heat win at times. We've seen a little bit of tension from these two teams, right? We saw the Jokic elbow in the back of Markieff Morris. So we know that there's going to be a little bit of intensity with this rivalry. But when I start to look at the superstars for this matchup, right? You look at the superstars, the Jokic, you look at Butler. What do they provide for their teams, right? For the Miami Heat side, Jimmy Butler is the anchor. We already know this team goes as Jimmy Butler goes. And while there's a lot of, talent on this team, there's a lot of players that have fought through a lot. This team goes through Jimmy B. Himmy buckets, as he's just so newly trademarked, right? Jimmy Butler has to be a factor of this series scoring, more so than anything, more defensively, more than just the leadership. This team needs him to score because the Nuggets get up and down the court. The Nuggets are one of the best teams at home. The Nuggets are a deep team. They got to be able to put up points in order to compete against this Denver Nuggets team. And Jimmy Butler has to score like he was earlier in the playoffs, consistently against the Milwaukee Bucks team. Jimmy B has to score. So I'm looking at Jimmy Butler as a scorer this series, especially we don't know when Tyler Hero is going to come back. It could be game 3. There's some rumors out there. It could be game 2. But this team needs additional scoring, and the guys have stepped up. But this is going to be on his plate as far as the superstars go. And then on the Nuggets side of the ball, Nikola Jokic, right? Should have been the MVP. Could have been the MVP, just depending on who you're asking. Nikola Jokic has to be a factor, and we need to see that triple-double Jokic, right? We know the Heat are going to throw that defense, that zone defense at Jokic. How is he going to be able, how is he going to facilitate that? Will he hit his open targets? Is he going to be more passive? I think Jokic just needs to be himself this series and not get too defined by this Miami Heat zone defense. I'm sure they're going to throw some doubles his way. A lot of attention towards Jokic. But if we're seeing triple-doubles, this is going to be the Nuggets series to lose. Now, when I look at the depth on both of these teams, right? We're talking about the depth. You're talking about, Gabe Vincent. You're talking about Tyler Hero at some point. Caleb Martin, who became Michael Jordan over the course of the Eastern Conference Finals out of nowhere. You got to start talking about the depth of these two teams. And the shooting for the Miami Heat is probably going to be the biggest factor out of this depth. Can the three-point shooters get hot? Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, all these guys have to hit the three ball in this series if they're going to score and keep up with the Nuggets. I think they can. And I think there's going to be games where they play hot and sometimes where they're cold. Because throughout the course of the regular season, this was one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league. In the league. And then in the playoffs, they've turned it up a notch. So they need to continue to play at that level, which we've seen this Heat team do against every single team when we think they can't. All of a sudden, this Heat team becomes this great three-point shooting team. We need to see more of that this series. I think it continues to happen. Just a little bit of inconsistency when it comes to three-point shooting. On the Denver side of the basketball, somebody has to step up and be the number 2 option for this team. We know Jamal Murray has been that all season long. And in the playoffs, we've seen Bubble Murray return, right? I think it's just healthy Murray at this point. We should come to expect that from Jamal Murray when it comes to scoring and putting the team on his shoulders when Jokic can't or when Jokic is facilitating. Jamal Murray is going to have a big opportunity this NBA Finals. Another player I'm looking at to have a big series, Michael Porter Jr. With this zone defense, he's got to be locked in and be consistent. So if MPJ can be consistent from the outside, I think this is going to change the series and could make it even shorter than what I'm anticipating. If you guys have any questions at all about the series, about the matchups, drop them in the comments. I'm here to hang out and chat with you guys for the foreseeable half hour, 45 that I'm here on the show. When it comes to coaching, right? We talk Spoelstra, we talk Mike Malone. Both of these are some of the best coaches in the league. 2 of the top 5 coaches in the league right now, if you ask me. And Erik Spoelstra does have a little bit of the experience factor being in the finals, Eastern Conference Finals, having won a finals himself back with the Heat and the LeBron, D-Wade days. Like, Erik Spoelstra does have a lot going for him with the experience factor. But Mike Malone has had a lot of the planning factor. He's had 9 days to sit there and decode this Miami Heat defense, this Miami Heat team. And I like what he's done with this Denver Nuggets team throughout the season. So coaching is pretty even when you ask me. Like, this is one of those things when I look at it, I don't really see a huge advantage coaching-wise. I think both are capable of making adjustments when they need to, and both are capable of leading their team. We saw Mike Malone was doing it with a hoarse voice, barely even talk during the Western Conference Finals. So no concern there coaching-wise. Home court, and I think this might be the biggest deciding factor of this series. Talent-wise, we know the Nuggets are better. I think on paper they are. Dog-wise, I think the grit, the culture, we give that to the Heat. Pretty even on paper if you ask me. But that home court, I mentioned it, 34-4 at home when Jokic plays. Like, that's not just something you can just gaff at and just move to the side. That's a great home record. And guess what? In the playoffs, they haven't lost at home yet. And so for a team that plays so well at home, not just because of the thin air, but because they're a great home team, for Miami to go in and steal 1, 2 of these things is going to be very tough. Game 1 might be their best chance. Game 1 might be their best chance to go in and steal a road win. But the Nuggets take care of home court very well. The Miami Heat have struggled at times at home throughout the course of this playoffs as well. We saw them lose a Game 6 to the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals at home. They're almost better on the road sometimes. So I anticipate them at least getting 1. They have to get 1 road win here early on out of Game 1 or Game 2. And I think Denver can go into Miami and win. That's the difference. Is I think that Miami struggles mightily to go into Denver and win a game, and I can see Denver winning 1, maybe 2 games in Miami. That's going to be the key difference when it comes to home court and who can protect it. Now, I know a lot of pressure will be on Denver. If Miami does happen to go in and steal Game 1 or Game 2, that's going to put pressure on a team that hasn't lived up to expectations in the past and is just now doing so for the first time. But if there's a team that can overcome it, it's the Denver Nuggets. I got them in 6. I think the Denver Nuggets win this series in 6 games. And, I love what the Heat have done, and we continue to count them out. I continue to count them out. I expect it to be more competitive than a 1-game win for the Heat. I think they come out there and do dirt. I just still think that the Nuggets, well coached, great home team, have the best player in the entire NBA Finals is Nikola Jokic, maybe even in the league. And we stamp our approval of Jokic and start talking about him amongst the all-time great centers in NBA history. So incredible matchup. Game 1 tonight. Denver is an 8.5 point favorite. Who do you got? Let me know in the comments who you think wins tonight. Should be a great series. Now, when it comes to this series, though, we got to start talking about the Daily Dozen, right? Head over to the Champions Round app, download the app itself, and play Daily Dozen with me tonight. We're going to go over player props for tonight, talk about team totals, and where I think the direction some of these can go. Daily Dozen is fun. You can 10x your money. You get all 12 right, 100x, 100x your money. If you get all 12 picks right, anything more than 7, you get your money back. So it's a great way to have fun throughout the game. You could also play spicy slips, but I'm going to go through some of the picks right now. Well, look at this total. Total sitting at 219.5, 219 and a half points. I'm going to go with the under on this one. And this is because there's going to be a lot of jitters from both teams, right? Miami Heat, already a slower paced team. They're a team that plays really well defensively. But this is the first finals for a lot of these Nuggets players. So a lot of times you see erratic shots, you see a slower pace, you see a lot more missed buckets, you see, a lot more calculated decisions than just free-flowing basketball earlier on in the final series. I think that happens. I think we're going to stay under that total of 219 and a half points. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if they got a little bit, if at times they got a little bit hot, but this Heat team is a great defensive team. The Nuggets are a very smart basketball team, very patient team as well when needed. I think the total goes under. Question came in from DSRO8. Do you think Bam will be able to contain Jokic? Now, there's been a lot of teams in the NBA that have tried to contain Jokic all season long, to no avail. The Miami Heat have a guy, Bam, who's been a defensive anchor for this team for the last few years. This team plays a zone defense. It's one of the best in the league, especially during the playoffs, and has shut down a lot of other teams using this same defense. But no, there's no stopping Nikola Jokic. If he wants a triple-double, he's going to get it. That's why they call him a stat pattern, right? We know what type of stats he can put up. And even the zone defense, the ability for Jokic, and I think this is what makes him an all-time great player, the ability for Jokic to be able to see the floor from the center position, pass to anybody on the floor, dribble if he needs to. Aaron Gordon is diving at the rim. This is a hard team to stop because of the outside shooting that they have, and then the inside finishers that they have. Jokic, we see one-legged step backs from 25 feet out. There's no containing Jokic. He does what he does. It's a matter of the other guys on the floor. Can they slow the game down and can they get the pace in that they need to? And I ultimately think this isn't a matter of if the Nuggets will slow down. I think it's can the Heat be consistent enough scoring-wise to win this series? That's what it comes down to. Defensively, they're going to struggle. The Nuggets just have too much depth. They have great guard play, great wing play. Jokic himself is a dog. It's going to come down to can the Heat keep up scoring-wise and continue to hit their outside shooting. So, Bam, sorry, bro, I don't see it. I don't see it slowing down. Jokic is if everything goes right, he's probably going to be the NBA Finals MVP. Back to the Daily Dozen. I was talking about Jokic. Let's get to his total points, 27.5. Jokic has averaged 27.3 points per game during the NBA playoffs in his career. In this playoff run specifically, he's averaged a lot more, 29.9 points per game, almost 30 a game during the playoffs. And I almost see more of a facilitating Jokic during this NBA Finals run. So although the number has been higher for him this postseason run, and although he's going to need to score, you are right, the DSRO8. You're right about Bam being a factor. I think that the scoring might be limited come game one. I'm going to go with the under 27.5 because I also think the total is going under. So I'm going to go under for Nikola Jokic, 27.5. Even with all the numbers speaking to the over, I'm going to play the under and fade. Kind of the consensus of him scoring 30 or more this game. All right, let's go to another player who I said had to have a very important role, and you can see him down on the screen right there screaming his damn lungs out. Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is a player that I do think has to elevate his level of play in order for the Nuggets to win this series. Over the course of the 2023 playoffs, he's averaging 27.7 points, and at home, it's 28.8. So there's an uptick at home, and I think that continues this game. It's at 25.5. His total is sitting there, 25.5 points. I'm going to go over for Jamal Murray, who I think has a very important role. Gabe Vincent has been very good at slowing down opposing point guards this entire postseason run, but Jamal Murray has been a guy who can get his shot when needed and score in bunches. So at home, game one, I think Jamal Murray is the guy that this team leans on for scoring. The Nuggets will have to rely on his outside shooting and his ability to get to the rim against this defense. We also talked about Jimmy Butler, and I said this team goes through Jimmy Butler, goes through the scoring of Jimmy Butler, and his total tonight is sitting at 27.5. So Jimmy Butler, do I think he's going to score 30 points tonight coming out? You're damn sure I do. I think this is a game where Jimmy goes out and absolutely tries to secure a win game one. And he puts a lot on his shoulders. This is, we always talk about role players, and on the road, we don't get as good of performances typically. I'm not going to say all the time. Typically from role players, we see their best performances at home, and then on the road, they tend to struggle a little bit or be a little bit more inconsistent, I'll say. But this is when star players, a lot of times, guys like Jimmy Butler can tend to continue to play at a consistent level. In all of the game one so far this postseason, Jimmy Butler's at 31.7 points per game. I love the over here. Give me Jimmy Butler over 27.5 points. I think he smashes that total tonight. We've talked about the three-point line as well and how important that is for the Miami Heat. Caleb Martin was a guy who really came out of nowhere, right? For the majority of his career, Cody Martin was the better Martin, and Caleb Martin showed this team needs him right now, that he could step up when Tyler Herro's been out. During the Eastern Conference Finals, it was debatable that he might have even been the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. And he averaged 19.3 points, 6.4 boards, 1.7 assists during the Eastern Conference Finals. Crazy to see the glow up from Caleb Martin. His total sitting at 15.5 points. And I talked about role players. On the road. You don't think this Denver Nuggets team is scoping out Caleb Martin as a guy that they don't want to let beat him? You don't think this Denver Nuggets team knows what Caleb Martin's been doing all Eastern Conference Finals? I think they slow him down a little bit. KCP, some of the other wing defenders that the Denver Nuggets have, Bruce Brown, they are able to slow down these other guys. I see Caleb Martin having a little slower game one today. So 15.5, even though the number seems a little bit low, I'm going under on the 15.5 for Caleb Martin today in game one. I talked about the importance of Aaron Gordon as well. He's a player now that will have to make a difference when it comes to scoring the ball and also rebounding. If we don't get a huge performance out of Aaron Gordon, I can see this thing going a number of ways for the Denver Nuggets. He's gotten 5.5 rebounds is his total, and he's hit that number about every single game for this playoffs. He's averaged that, right? And at home, he tends to do a little bit worse, 5.1 rebounds a game. But for some reason, I think Aaron Gordon steps up. I think this is undersized when it comes to the bigs on this Miami Heat team. They're a little undersized. And with all the attention on Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon's a guy I could see having a very big role when it comes to rebounding the basketball, attacking the paint, being in prime position to get some offensive rebounds. Give me the over for Aaron Gordon, 5.5. I'll take the over 5.5 rebounds for him in this game. And I think Aaron Gordon has a very nice game one. I'm anticipating him being 15-8, somewhere in that range. I like Aaron Gordon tonight a lot. I'm not going to lie. Last player I want to talk about when it comes to Daily Dozen, some of the props we have for tonight. Bam Adebayo, his rebounds are sitting at 8.5. And, this is a number for Bam. Like we've seen him at times, not able to get secure rebounds. And then at other times, it looks like he is able to. And against Nikola Jokic, he's only averaged 6.9 rebounds a game. That's what I'm saying. This is a tough matchup for him. I'm going to go under 8.5 rebounds for Bam. And I think some other players are going to have to step up when it comes to rebounding the basketball for this Miami Heat team. I see Aaron Gordon clean up the glass. We know what Jokic is going to do every day off the glass. I think this is a game where Bam struggles, and they had to figure something out for game two. They'll have to make some adjustments. Under 8.5 rebounds for Bam Adebayo. If you want to play Daily Dozen with me, you want to go over some more of the other props available, head over to the Champions Round app, download the app, play Daily Dozen. And if you want some live action, Spicy Slips is the way to go. Like I said, we're giving away a Damian Lillard jersey. A lot of fun. If you haven't played Spicy Slips, go ahead and do it. It is hoop season, but we got to talk football, baby. OTAs are going on right now. We got a lot of action, and it's always fun. Always fun to talk about stuff before it happens because we can look smart as hell when it happens, and then we look dumb as hell when it doesn't happen. But we got to get into some predictions, man, because, there's been a lot of change this offseason. Some teams have acquired pieces. Some teams have lost pieces. But predicting season-long totals is always a fun thing to do, right? It gives you an opportunity to evaluate the true impact of a lot of these decisions. Rookies coming along, new faces in new places, trades that were made, free agents that were signed. Gives us the time to evaluate. And it's super early before any injuries would happen in OTAs, training camps, preseason. So let's take everything with a clean slate. Let's get some predictions out the way. I got some quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers that I want to cover. Start with Lamar Jackson. Yeah, he got the bag, right? And we've always seen Lamar, he's been traditionally more mobile than anything, right? He's used his legs a lot early in his career. But a change at offensive coordinator. In addition, Zay Flowers in the draft, first-round rookie. Odell Beckham signed with the Ravens. There's a little bit more at Lamar Jackson's disposal now, and his passing total sitting at 3,625.5 yards. I think Lamar hits this over. One of the things he talked about, he said, through this new offense, a lot less running, a lot more passing. And he's been close to this number before, but never hit it. I think this is the year Lamar actually hits 4,000 yards passing. And so for me, you see Odell Beckham, he's a guy that can change the way an offense looks. Rashad Bateman will be healthy for the first time. Mark Andrews, we've seen him be a 1,000-yard receiver for Lamar Jackson already. And then Zay Flowers, that's a lot of addition to this staff that really had no receivers last year. You're talking Devin Duvernay was the number one receiver last year. At times, Demarcus Robinson. Like, to me, Lamar Jackson is set up for success within this offense. So 3,625 yards seems like a doable number for a guy that intends on passing a little bit more. Give Lamar Jackson the over on that number. I think it's a good number for him to hit. Like I said, he might be the first 4,000. Get this on tape. He might be the first 4,000, 1,000-yard passer rusher we've ever seen in the league. Stamp it. 4,000 and 1,000 for Lamar Jackson. I'm calling it out right now here, June 1st. That's my gut call, Lamar Jackson. Let's see. I think those are MVP numbers too, if you're asking me. New face and new place. Aaron Rodgers on the New York Jets. Everybody's in love. Broadway Aaron, he's here now. The savior for the New York Jets. 4,050 yards. I think that number is still a little too high. I know. You're looking at me crazy. I know. Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets with Garrett Wilson, all the weapons. You got Allen Lazard there, all the weapons for the Jets. I still think this is a run-first offense. And we got to look at it. The defense is one of the best in the league, and we haven't seen Aaron Rodgers really be a 4,500-yard, we haven't seen that out of Aaron Rodgers. He's mostly been a touchdown thrower. Breece Hall coming back from his injury. This is set up for Aaron Rodgers to be more of a precision passer, to make the smart decisions. I see Garrett Wilson have a lot of touchdowns, but the yardage, I'm not sure he gets there. I'm not sure he gets to 4,000 yards passing. That'd be and Aaron Rodgers, for all intents and purposes, I know he's been a 4-time MVP. We've seen him have the success, but he's getting up there in age. Aaron Rodgers is getting up there in age. Do we continue to see him, the trajectory go higher? I don't think so. New setup, new type of system. Give me Aaron Rodgers under 4,050.5 yards passing. Let's get into some running backs. One of the sexiest names on the list, Bijan Robinson, number 8 pick, going to the Atlanta Falcons. Really nice setup for him. His total sitting at 1,075.5 rushing yards. And this is a high number for a rookie and a guy with a lot of talent. Everybody's expecting him to hit this number and, demolish by it, be one of the top rookies we've ever seen. He's like right now, Bijan Robinson's going top 5, one of the top 5 running backs in fantasy right now. So very high expectations for this kid. But I have some concerns with Bijan Robinson. I don't think he can get 1,000 yards. I think he has that in his workload. I think he has top 5 fantasy running back in his wheelhouse. But Tyler Algier he's a 1,000-yard rusher himself. He's a guy that can come in and take some carries away, take some of the workload away. And I also think that this Falcons team values Bijan Robinson as a pass catcher. We saw him use a two-headed attack last year. Cordell Patterson, Tyler Algier. Cordell Patterson was a little bit of a jack of all trades, right? Swiss Army knife. You could use him in the slot, use him in the pass catching role, use him in the running game. I think we kind of see that from Bijan Robinson this year. Do I think he can get 1,100 yards rushing? I think it's in there. But if I'm a betting man, we're on this show, we're talking totals. I'm going to play the under on Bijan Robinson. I think he'd also have to have an entirely healthy season, no injuries at all to hit that number. I'm going to go under for Bijan Robinson. I don't doubt that he can hit it. There's just a number of other things that I think come into play and come into factor with Bijan Robinson outside of just pure rushing. Jonathan Taylor, a player that we have seen hit 1,000 yards rushing. His number sitting at 1,300.5 rushing yards, expected to lead the league in rushing this year, according to the number. That's a hefty number for a guy that we didn't see play a whole lot of games last year, was injured, was banged up, now has a new rookie quarterback, Anthony Richardson, new head coach Scott Stein, just new head coaching in there as well. Shane, I can't think of his last name right now. I'm blow the top of my mind. Shane Steichen, there we go. And Jonathan Taylor is in a new offense where we've seen a run-heavy approach, right? And Anthony Richardson's a guy, AR-15. They've taken him to the next level, right? They've added the weapon that they needed, a mobile quarterback that can take some of the pressure off of Jonathan Taylor. This is going to be a very scary pairing, in my opinion, very similar to what we've seen in Philly, right? When you talk about Jalen Hurts, you talk about the run game there. This offense is going to be set up for Jonathan Taylor to hit those home runs that we've seen him have his entire career. 1,300 yards is definitely not out of the scope of possibilities, and I think he hits that number and goes higher. It's a high number. I'm going over 1,300.5 yards rushing for Jonathan Taylor. Heading over to the receivers now. We got a couple. And top of the list, Mr. Gritty himself. Jettas, baby. Justin Jefferson. What y'all think about Justin Jefferson? Let me know in the comments. 1,450.5 yards. I think this number is disrespectful to Justin Jefferson. He's an 1,800-yard receiver. He's a 180 target receiver. That number seems way too low for a guy that, at floor, he's going to get 160, 170 targets. That makes no sense to me. Give me the over all day. 1,450 yards. I think he clears this number by at least 200. The only reason I see him not hitting this number is due to injury. Everything else, the quarterback's the same, the system's the same. Everything is the same for Justin Jefferson, who's coming off of a career year. I don't see why he's not able to duplicate that. Give me the over of 1,450 yards. I think he clears that by a mile. Travis Kelce, not a receiver, but now in a different situation where we've seen, Travis Kelce getting a little bit older now, right? Coming off a Super Bowl, accomplished a lot of things that he's wanted to accomplish in his career. But now there's a lot of talk that Kadarius Toney is the number one receiver in Kansas City. 1,150 yards for Travis Kelce. They drafted Rashee Rice this year. Also, we got Sky Moore coming back. Makes you go, what are these guys up to in Kansas City, right? 1,150 yards is a very high number for a guy we've seen hit this number many times in his career. I go under with Travis Kelce. I still think he's the guy there. He's the number one receiver. I'm not buying into Kadarius Toney taking over all the spotlight there in KC. But we saw more of a balanced approach, a more spread out approach. And this Kansas City team doesn't necessarily need to rely on Travis Kelce the way that they had to do in the past. Like, it's not the same. So I'm going to go under Travis Kelce, 1,150 yards. And as a guy who always has rostered Travis Kelce, it is tough to say that. It's kind of tough to say that. I'm not going to lie. New face and new place, Odell Beckham with a disrespectful number, 575 yards receiving. I'm smashing the over on that. I think he gets closer to 1,000 with Lamar Jackson. They didn't pay this guy $20 million almost to get 500 yards receiving. 1-year deal, $18 million for Odell Beckham. I think they force feed him the ball. 575 yards. We see third-string receivers hit that number. To me, that number is clear all day. 575 yards. If Odell Beckham's not close to 1,000 yards, I'd be very shocked. I think that's a number that's very disrespectful for a guy who we saw do that in almost 8 games with the Los Angeles Rams when he came back from his ACL. I think Odell Beckham is one of those players who can come in and be a very nice piece for this Ravens team. He'll be the number one receiver over all day, 575 yards receiving. Last player I want to talk about is a rookie, Jackson Smith-Njigba. JSN, as we'll call him for the show today. He's at 799.5 yards. So all he has to do is hit 800. On a Seahawks team that has started to air the ball out a little bit more. Team paid Geno Smith to be their quarterback for the short-term future here. Already has DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. So things should be open in the middle of the field for JSN, right? I think so. But I think that is a very high number for a guy that is a rookie and does have to share some of the targets that he's going to be getting this year. I think in the future, this will be a very easy number for JSN to hit. But right now, Geno Smith is probably a 4,500 yard passer. And with DK on one side, Tyler Lockett on the other, it might be a tough go-around for JSN to hit 800 yards receiving. I think it's a capable number. It's a doable number. But I would take the under 799 receiving yards for JSN. Let me know what you guys think, if you guys agree with me at all or not on these predictions. But fantasy football's here. We got over-unders here. A lot of NFL talk in store with OTAs here and training camp coming up next month in July. So a lot of things in store, but always good talking NFL. Guys, It's been real. Daily Champs is here. Make sure you guys play Daily Dozen like I did earlier on. And good luck with your bets on the NBA Finals tonight. Should be a good game. We'll see you on the next episode of Daily Champs next week. Peace out.